My name is Michael. I'm 17 years old and I study at St. Martin's High School. Our school is very old, built over 100 years ago. There's a long hallway on the third floor that no one likes to walk through because the lighting is weak and the walls are full of cracks. But the strangest thing in this hallway is the large mirror hanging at its end. The mirror is huge, with an old corroded golden frame. Rumors among students say it's haunted, and that whoever looks into it after noon sees something they shouldn't. I always used to laugh at these superstitions, until that day. It was an ordinary Thursday. I stayed after classes to finish a science project with my friend Lucas. We sat in the lab until 5 in the evening. In winter, the sun sets early here. When we finished, the school was almost empty and the hallways were dark except for a few dim lights. Lucas said, "I'll take the back stairs. It's closer to the bus stop." I replied, "Okay, I'll get my stuff from my locker." We split up. I headed towards the main hallway. It was strangely quiet. My footsteps echoed on the tiles, and that's when I remembered my locker was in the corridor leading to the third floor. I hesitated for a moment. The air was unnaturally cold, but I told myself, "Don't be a coward, Michael." I slowly climbed the stairs. Each step made a loud sound in the emptiness. I reached the third floor. The long hallway stretched before me. The lights flickered faintly. At the end of the hall, there was the mirror. I could see it from a distance. It looked normal, just an old mirror. I walked steadily towards my locker, located in the middle of the hallway. I opened it and took out my books. As I was closing the door, I heard a sound. It was a soft sound, like a faint breath. I spun around quickly. No one. The hallway was completely empty. "Hello? Is anyone there?" I asked. No one answered. Silence returned. I shook my head and told myself it was just my imagination. But I noticed something strange. The light above the mirror was dimming and brightening slowly. Its rhythm was different from the other lights. A strange feeling crept into my heart. A feeling that someone was watching me. I closed the locker and started walking toward the stairs. I had to pass the mirror. With every step, my heart beat faster. I don't know why I felt afraid. It's just a mirror, just reflective glass. But my whole body was screaming at me to stay away. When I was about 3 meters from the mirror, I noticed something that made me stop dead in my tracks. My reflection in the mirror wasn't moving with me. I slowly raised my right hand. The reflection remained still. It was staring at me. Its eyes were wide and empty. Its face was paler than my natural complexion. Its smile was different. It was too wide, like a smile drawn with a pen on a statue's face. I stepped back. The reflection didn't step back. It stayed where it was. Then it started moving closer. It was walking towards me from inside the mirror. With every step it took, the light dimmed further. My body froze in terror. I wanted to scream, but my voice disappeared. I wanted to run, but my feet were glued to the floor. The reflection reached the surface of the mirror from the inside. It placed its hand on the glass. Its hand was pale, with long, dirty fingernails. It started pressing against the glass. I saw small cracks appearing around its fingers. It was trying to get out. Suddenly, I heard rapid footsteps behind me. I turned to see Mr. Harrison, the old school janitor, running toward me with his flashlight. "Michael, get away from the mirror," he shouted, his face full of horror. He grabbed my arm tightly and pulled me away. At that moment, I heard a loud shattering sound. I looked back. The mirror was intact, but the reflection was now pounding on the glass with its fists. Its face had turned into a mass of black anger. Its eyes were no longer eyes, but empty sockets weeping black blood. Mr. Harrison quickly pulled me out of the hallway. We ran down the stairs until we reached the main gate. There, he stopped to catch his breath. "What was that?" I asked, my voice trembling. He looked at me with tired eyes and said, 30 years ago there was a student named Edward. He was bullied every day. They made fun of his looks, his clothes, everything. One day he stood in front of that mirror for hours crying. Then he disappeared. The police searched for a whole week. They never found him. But since that day, students have started seeing things in that mirror, things that move when they shouldn't. I asked, "Has anyone tried to remove the mirror?" He answered in a low voice, "They tried 3 times. Each time, whoever tries to take it down gets severely ill or has a strange accident. The previous principal decided to cover it with black cloth. The next morning, the cloth was found torn on the floor, and the mirror it was bleeding blood from its edges. I looked at him shocked. He continued, "Now you know why no one walks down that hallway after sunset, why we tell students not to stay late." I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that face behind the glass. I saw those empty eyes and that horrible smile. The next day, I returned to school. I passed the entrance to the third-floor hallway. The lights were completely off, but from a distance I saw the mirror. There was a shadow standing in it, a shadow the size of a person. It was waiting. Since that day, I have never walked down that hallway again. But sometimes when I'm on the second floor, I hear soft footsteps on the third floor. Footsteps walking slowly toward the mirror. And sometimes on quiet nights I dream of Edward. He's trying to get out. He's trying to find someone to take his place behind the glass. 3 months before I graduated, a new student came to school. His name was Nathan. He was quiet, lonely like Edward. I saw him one day standing at the end of the third-floor hallway. He was staring into the mirror. I shouted loudly, "Nathan, get away from there!" He turned to me slowly. He smiled. It was a very wide smile, like a smile drawn with a pen on a statue's face. I never saw Nathan after that day. They said he transferred to another school, but I know the truth. Some nights when the school is empty, if you pass by that hallway and look in the mirror, you'll see two faces staring back at you from inside. Edward's face and Nathan's face, both of them waiting, both of them looking for a third. My name is Olivia, and I want to tell you about the most terrifying experience I had at Northwood Boarding School. It was a large school surrounded by a dense forest. I lived in the West Wing with 13 other girls. Our supervisor was Mrs. Claudia, a strict woman in her 50s with cold blue eyes that pierced you like ice. In the West Wing, there are 14 student rooms. My room was number 8. Next to me was room number 7. From my very first day at school, I noticed something strange. Room number 7 was always locked. Not just locked, but secured with a large, thick iron padlock and a heavy chain wrapped around the doorknob. I asked my roommate, Clara, "Why is the next room locked up like that?" Clara looked at me nervously and said, "Don't ask about that room, just don't go near it." Of course, this made me more curious. I started asking the other girls. They all gave me almost the same response. "It's room number 7. Don't open it. Don't go near it. Don't ask about it." One night, about a month after I arrived, I was returning from the bathroom in the middle of the night. The hallway was dark and quiet. As I passed room number 7, I heard a sound. It was a faint whisper. I stopped. The whisper was coming from behind the door. I slowly approached. I pressed my ear against the cold wooden door. At first I heard nothing but my own heartbeat. Then clearly I heard a little girl crying. It was a muffled cry, as if the girl was afraid of being heard. "Help me, please," the little girl whispered from behind the door. I jumped back quickly. My heart was pounding violently. I ran to my room and locked the door behind me. I woke Clara. "Clara, there's a little girl in room 7. I heard her crying and asking for help." Clara sat up in bed slowly. Her face turned pale in the moonlight coming through the window. She said in a very low voice, "Olivia, room number 7 has been empty for 20 years. No one is in there." "But I heard her. I heard her clearly." Clara grabbed my hand tightly and looked into my eyes. "Listen to me carefully. What you heard is not a little girl, not a real one. There's something in that room, something that pretends to be a child to deceive us. Don't believe it. Never answer it. Never open that door, no matter what happens." I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my bed watching the wall separating my room from room 7. Around 3 in the morning, I heard a faint scratching sound on the wall. It was coming from inside room number 7. Something was scratching the wall with long fingernails. The sound continued for a full hour. It was slow and rhythmic. Scratch, scratch, scratch. As if something was trying to dig through the wall to reach me. The next day, I was completely exhausted. During history class, I fell asleep on my desk. After class, my favorite teacher, Miss Avery, came to me. She was a kind young woman in her 30s. "Olivia, are you all right? You look very tired." I hesitated for a moment, then decided to tell her. "Miss Avery, what do you know about room number 7 in the West Wing?" Her face suddenly changed. Her kind smile vanished, replaced by a serious and cautious expression. She closed the classroom door and gestured for me to sit. "Olivia, I will tell you because I trust you. But what I say must remain a secret." I sat down, feeling both fear and curiosity. She continued. 20 years ago, there was a student here named Emily. She was 12 years old, a quiet, beautiful child, but she was suffering. She saw things others didn't, heard voices no one else heard. Doctors said she was mentally ill, but the dorm supervisors saw strange things around her too. What happened to her? On a cold winter night, Emily disappeared from her room, room number 7. They searched everywhere, the forest, the river, the entire building. They couldn't find her. 3 days later, she came back. She suddenly appeared in her room. She was sitting on her bed, staring at the wall. Her eyes were different, completely black. And her smile was too wide, as if someone else was wearing her face. Miss Avery paused for a moment, then continued, her voice trembling. When the supervisor tried to approach her, Emily spoke in a voice that wasn't hers. A deep, slow voice said, "I'm not Emily. Emily is with us now. I've come to play with the others." Then she started laughing. A loud, disturbing laugh that wouldn't stop. The supervisor fainted from terror, and when she woke up, the room was empty. Emily had disappeared again. Since that day, that room has been locked. I asked, my voice shaking, "Why don't they tear it down?" "They tried. Anyone who tried to open the door or break the wall got sick. They saw things in their dreams. They woke up with scratches on their bodies. The school sealed the room forever, but..." She paused and looked around cautiously. "But what?" "But on some nights, the girls in the neighboring rooms hear sounds, crying, whispers, knocking on the walls. And sometimes they see a small shadow moving under the door of room 7, a child's shadow, but it's too long, unnaturally long." I returned to my room that evening feeling a deep dread, but the worst was yet to come. That night I woke up to the sound of a whisper right next to my ear. I slowly opened my eyes. In the darkness, I saw Clara sleeping in her bed. Everything seemed normal. Then I heard the voice again. "Olivia." I froze. The voice was coming from under my bed, right from under my bed. "Olivia, I want to play." It was the voice of a little girl, soft and innocent, but it was very cold. Like winter wind creeping under the door. I squeezed my eyes shut and covered my head with the blanket. I started reciting every prayer I knew. The whispering continued for long minutes. It moved around. One moment under the bed, the next by the window, then behind the door. It was moving freely in the room. It was here with me. "Olivia, why won't you play with me? Everyone here wants to play." Then suddenly, I heard a sound that made my blood freeze. The sound of scratching on the door to my room, not room 7, my room. I peeked out from under the blanket. Moonlight was streaming in through the window. I saw the handle of my room door slowly turning, moving downward. The door began to open very slowly. A crack appeared. And through that crack, I saw a single eye staring at me from the darkness. A child's eye, but it was completely black. No white, just infinite blackness. I screamed at the top of my lungs. Clara quickly turned on the lamp. The door slammed shut with force. I ran to it and grabbed the handle. It was cold as ice. I flung the door open quickly. The hallway was empty and silent. But on the floor, right in front of my door, there were very small footprints. The footprints of a barefoot child. They started at the door of room 7 and ended at my door. I never slept in that room again after that night. I was moved to the East Wing. But on some nights when I'm alone, I feel that same coldness. And sometimes from a distance I hear a faint whisper, "Olivia, why did you leave me alone?" A week before my graduation, I passed by the West Wing for the last time. It was late. I looked up at the window of room 7. The curtains were drawn, but behind the curtains I saw a shadow. The shadow of a little girl. She was waving her hand slowly at me. I hurried away. I never looked back, but I know she is still there, waiting for someone to hear her crying and open the door, waiting for someone to believe she is just a lonely little girl who needs help. Never open the door to room number 7. No matter what you hear, no matter what you see, don't open the door. My name is Daniel. I was 16 when this happened. I study at Riverside High School, a fairly modern school, but it was built on the site of an old school that burned completely in a massive fire 40 years ago. That's what the official history told us, but the truth is entirely different. It all started in music class. It was the last class of the day on a Tuesday, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The music room is located at the end of the east hallway, next to the old auditorium that is rarely used. The teacher was Mr. Williams, a thin man in his 40s, pale-faced, who spoke in a low voice as if afraid someone would hear him. That day we were studying the history of classical music. There were 9 students in the class. Me, my friend Alex, Julia, Marcus, Samantha, Tyler, Rachel, Brian, and Lauren. The atmosphere was boring. Mr. Williams was droning on about Beethoven and Mozart. Some students were asleep on their desks. Then suddenly Mr. Williams stopped talking. He stood frozen in front of the whiteboard. He stared at a spot at the back of the room. "Who just came into the room?" he asked in a strange voice. We all looked back. The door was closed. No one had entered. "No one, Mr. Williams," said Marcus. Mr. Williams slowly shook his head and returned to the lesson. But I noticed his hands were trembling. 2 minutes later, something strange happened. The grand piano in the corner of the room played a single note, a low, mournful note. Julia jumped from her seat. "Who played that?" No one was near the piano. It was closed. The cover was over the keys. Mr. Williams stood up slowly. His face had turned even paler. He walked to the piano and lifted the cover. It was empty. No one underneath, no one behind it. "All right, maybe a string snapped," he said unconvincingly. "Let's continue the lesson." But the mood had changed. I felt a chill in the room, even though the windows were shut. I saw Samantha rubbing her arms as if she were cold. Then the lights went out. It wasn't a power outage. The lights in the hallway were still on. We could see their glow from under the door. But the lights in the music room went out suddenly, all of them at once. Some of the girls started screaming. I heard Mr. Williams trying to calm us down. "Quiet down. Quiet. I'll turn on a flashlight." We heard him moving in the dark. Then we heard the sound of something heavy hitting the floor, the sound of a human body falling up. "Mr. Williams?" Alex called out. No one answered. Then in the pitch blackness, the piano started playing. It wasn't normal playing. It was a melody I had never heard before in my life. Slow, sad, deep. Each note trembled in the air like a sob. No one was sitting on the piano bench. No one was near the piano, but the keys were moving. We could see them moving in the dark. Invisible hands were playing. And suddenly, a faint, strange light appeared in the middle of the room. It was a pale blue light like moonlight, but it came from nowhere. And in that light we saw him. He was a young boy, maybe 10 years old. He was sitting on the piano bench. His hair was disheveled and his clothes were old-fashioned, the edges burned. His face was very pale, and his eyes were completely empty, 2 deep black holes. He continued to play. The melody grew faster, more frantic. His small fingers flew over the keys at an impossible speed. It wasn't a human playing, it was something else. Tyler tried to open the door. It was locked. Rachel started crying. Lauren fainted. As for me, I couldn't move. I was frozen in place, staring at that boy, at his empty eyes. The playing stopped abruptly. The boy turned on the bench and looked directly at us. Then he smiled. It was a very wide smile on his small face, unnaturally wide, like an open wound on his face. "Do you like my song?" he asked in a soft, creepy voice. "I wrote it the night I died." He opened his mouth to laugh, but what came out wasn't a laugh. It was the sound of fire, the sound of wood burning, the sound of flames consuming everything, and suddenly the room filled with the smell of smoke. We started coughing. At that moment, the lights came back on suddenly. The boy vanished. The blue light vanished. The smell of smoke vanished. The piano was closed and silent. Mr. Williams was sprawled on the floor unconscious. The door opened by itself. We ran out of that room like crazy people. We didn't stop until we reached the schoolyard. The next day, Mr. Williams didn't come. They said he was sick. We never saw him again. But we 9 students weren't okay. We had all seen the same thing. We had all heard the same melody. And in the nights that followed, each one of us woke up with terrible nightmares. Alex and I decided to find the truth. We went to the old city library and searched the newspaper archives. We found an article from 1984, exactly 40 years ago. The headline read, "Tragic fire at Old Riverside School claims life of talented student." We read the article in shock. There was a boy named Leonard. He was a musical prodigy. At 10 years old, he played complex pieces and composed beautiful melodies. But the other children mocked him. They bullied him daily for his love of classical music. They called him weird. They hit him and broke his glasses. They hid his sheet music. One night, they locked him in the music room after school hours. They closed the door from the outside and left him there. They just wanted to scare him. But one of them, the article didn't name who, had a lighter. And they set fire to some papers near the door as a joke. The fire spread quickly. It consumed the curtains, the wooden chairs, and then the grand piano. Leonard was trapped inside. He screamed and screamed, but no one heard him. The firefighters found his small, charred body near the piano. His hands were still on the keys. The fire burned the entire old school down. They built our current school on top of its ruins. But they didn't tell us about Leonard. They didn't tell us that the music room was built in the exact same spot where he died. A week after reading the article, another strange thing happened. We were in a new music class, a temporary substitute teacher. Midway through the lesson, I noticed something on the piano. I cautiously approached. There was an old sheet of music paper, yellowed with age, written on it in fountain pen, "My last song, Leonard." I picked up the paper with a trembling hand. A melody was written out meticulously, and at the bottom of the page in a beautiful childish script. "For those who locked me in, for those who started the fire, for those who didn't save me, this is my song for you. I will play it for you every night until you remember, until you know, until you come and play with me." I dropped the paper. That night, as I lay in bed, I heard a faint melody coming from a distance. The same piano tune. I lived near the school. I opened my window. Across the street, I could see the music room. The light was off inside, but I saw a faint blue glow from within. And a small shadow sitting at the piano, playing his last song. The next morning, I told Alex what I'd seen. He was pale. He told me he'd heard the melody too, and so had Julia and Marcus. We had all heard it. We had all seen the blue shadow. A month before the end of the school year, a new student came to school. His name was Victor. He was quiet and reserved. In his first music class, I noticed he was very pale, shivering, coughing constantly. I asked him, "Are you okay?" He looked at me with wide eyes and said, "I saw him last night. I saw the boy in my room. He was standing at the foot of my bed. He said something to me. He said, 'Tell them I'm waiting. Tell them I haven't forgotten. Tell them the fire still burns me.'" Victor never came back to school after that week. They said his family moved away suddenly. As for the 9 of us, we still hear the melody every night. We still see the blue glow. We still remember Leonard's small, burned face and his white smile and his empty eyes. And sometimes, when I'm alone, I hear his whisper, "Do you like my song? Do you like it?" I'll keep playing it until everyone comes, until we're together again, in the music room, forever. I still study at that school, and I still avoid the music room after dark. But I know Leonard is there, waiting, playing, remembering, and he will never, ever stop.